Hey, all you experts out there, this is the Monetize Your Expertise podcast, where we show you how to use your skills to pay the bills. Have you ever wanted to create a business that positions you as the industry leader and go-to expert? Join me every week to hear from amazing leaders and entrepreneurs who have successfully refined their skills in order to become experts and create extremely profitable knowledge businesses. To find all of the links and tools mentioned in this episode, just go to myepodcast.com. I'm your host, Grant Weherley, the online course guy, helping you every week to monetize your expertise. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Monetize Your Expertise podcast. My name is Grant, and today we're going to be talking about the frustration that's involved with learning new things, and more specifically, the enjoyment threshold of learning a new skill. Now, this is going to be very important to any of you who might directly or indirectly have a business model which revolves around educating your customer or your client about something. So this could be anything from like a software product to, teaching a client how to use the website you just built them, or, going through your educational material, anything like that. So first off, I got a personal example of how this happened to me yesterday. This is what got me thinking about it as well. So yesterday I went surfing for the first time. I'm in Bali if you've been listening to recent episodes. So I went surfing, and actually I've heard so many people say how much they love surfing, but it's actually taken me a while to even attempt it because, one, I don't have very good balance, and two, it was one of those things where it's like, I know lots of people love this, and I don't feel like I'm going to love this, so I'm hesitant to burst my own bubble and realize, oh, there's something out there that everybody else loves that I don't. But what actually ended up happening was quite interesting. Basically, what happened is a 2-hour lesson, right? And the people didn't really speak that much English, so it was kind of just like, here's 5 minutes of explaining the basic concepts to you. Okay, now go out and try and surf on really, really large Bali waves. And so it was just like, ready, go. Every time there's a wave, just ready, go. And basically what happens is for like the first full hour before we took a break, I would just try and stand up, fall over. Try and stand up, fall. I wouldn't even be able to stand up before falling over and over and over again. Now, surfing is crazy hard. This is what I was kind of expecting too, is why I avoided trying to do it. It's very, very hard because what happens is your main job is to stand up while there's a large wave crashing on top of you. Like basically at the same time that a wave's crashing on you, you're supposed to stand up and maintain your balance. Now, maintaining your balance on something like a surfboard, it's not the easiest thing in the world, even if you're just standing in flat water, let alone when there's like a large wave crashing on you. You can't see your feet, so you can't do it visually, you have to do it by feel. And it's just a very challenging thing when you do it for the first time. And actually, it reminded me a lot of the process for how this went. It reminded me a lot of the first time I went snowboarding. Basically, I'd stand up and then fall over, or like go for a bit and then basically not be able to turn at all. And then whenever I needed to stop, I'd just fall over. It was actually quite a bit of fun after a while. It sucked for a long time, but then after several hours, I got the hang of it. It was quite fun. But I ended up falling over so many times that I bruised my tailbone, so it hurt to sit down for like 3 months. And this is all going somewhere productive, so stick with me for a few more minutes. So the first hour, basically, it sucked, and when we took a break, they asked me, like, how is it? Are you enjoying it? I'm like, no, this is terrible. I'm just getting smacked in the face with waves and falling over constantly. But I said it in kind of a joking way, because I went into it knowing it was going to suck until I learned how to do something basic. And so then we went back out for the second hour, and finally, I was able to start to stand up and not fall over immediately, but actually made it through some waves. And I was like, oh, okay, now this feels a lot better. It went from being just annoying and frustrating and mouthful of salt water kind of deal to being like, oh, that was cool. I just actually rode a wave all the way in. That was fun. I can't turn or do anything complicated, but I can at least stand up. I can imagine very clearly if I kept doing surfing, even just like once a week or even once a month, soon enough, I'd be able to really, really, really enjoy it. Because the thing is, the first time you do it, it's not fun at all because your skill level is so low that you can't even do it enough to enjoy it, right? And so by the end of the 2 hours, I was like, oh, this is mildly enjoyable, but not the most amazing thing ever. But I can imagine once you're, decently good at it, you can really, really enjoy the process of doing it. Now, this is actually very similar to what it's like to learn dancing, and this is something I'm more familiar with because this is something I know how to dance much better than I know how to surf or a lot of other things. So I really enjoy it, and it's a similar thing that the level of enjoyment that you have for it is very much related to how good you are at it. And at the beginning, it kind of sucks, and it's really uncomfortable, socially awkward, and most people are like, "Oh, this is like hard, and I'm not really having fun." And because it's a complex task, right? And if you can't do it to a certain skill level, you can't actually enjoy it because you're not good enough to be able to enjoy it. Now, I was lucky when I first learned to dance. I had a really, really good first couple of experiences, and it was a really good group of people. Basically, I still had that same like, oh, this is really hard. I have no idea what I'm doing. I feel very overwhelmed. I feel uncomfortable. I'm having to dance with like a pretty girl, and I'm feeling really stupid at the same time. It's very, very awkward, right? But actually, I was very fortunate because the group of people I was around, they were very like encouraging and supportive, and they made it really, really fun, even though I was terrible, right? And then throughout the process of learning to dance and having that positive reinforcement. And then eventually I got good enough that I was able to enjoy it in and of itself, right? So I would go out and dance and be able to dance and be like, hey, this is fun. So all of this relates back to what I'll call the enjoyment threshold. Now, I'm defining this as the level of skill required to enjoy the process of doing an activity, right? So some of the characteristics of this would be that the more complex the skill set or thing is that you're doing, the higher that enjoyment threshold is, the higher level of skill set required in order to even enjoy it at all. If you want to compare it to riding a bike, if you can imagine not knowing how to ride a bike, trying to ride a bike and just falling over constantly, it's not very fun, right? Like no kid is going to enjoy riding a bike before they can actually ride a bike. But once they're kind of helped through the process of learning to ride a bike and they're able to do it on their own, it's that cliche moment of like, Daddy, I'm doing it. I'm pedaling on my own, right? And then from there on, it's fun. Now, the enjoyment threshold is going to vary dramatically by activity. So, for example, if you learn how to play a very, very simple card game that doesn't require a high level of skill, maybe something like Hearts or, War, something that's very, very basic, right? So you can get up to speed and be playing that and enjoy it pretty quickly. But something like, like legitimate poker is a bit complicated, especially being able to think about odds and how to bet. And there's all these new skill sets that you have to learn to be able to even function playing poker. Actually, a better example would be blackjack versus poker. So blackjack's very simple. You can learn the rules in 5 minutes and then be like, hey, this is kind of fun. For poker, it's one of the reasons that like people either love or hate poker because they're either good enough to play poker or they aren't, and that, you can't really enjoy it unless you're to a certain skill level. Another example might be checkers and chess. Checkers is simple, easy to get good enough at to be able to enjoy it, versus chess, it's a little bit more complicated. It takes more time and a higher skill level to be able to even start to enjoy it. Now, what's really interesting, a characteristic about this enjoyment threshold is that it's really hard to get past this threshold without external encouragement, because for a while, as a person learning a new skill set, it's going to be inherently unpleasant, most likely, or frustrating. You feel stupid, you feel weak, you feel uncoordinated. Basically, you're trying to do something really, really hard, and maybe you're seeing somebody else do something that looks fun, and you're trying over and over again and failing over and over again, right? So it's inherently unenjoyable because your skill level is below the enjoyment threshold, so you can't really inherently enjoy the activity. So what's really important about this is that's actually the role in most instructors or teachers or people who teach skills like that. The primary role in the very, very beginning of a teacher is to give some basic, like here's some basic how-to, and then primarily provide a lot of encouragement to the person learning the skill, because if they don't, then the person will get frustrated and never pass that enjoyment threshold. If they provide the encouragement and the external reinforcement of what the person's doing, then it can help them surpass that enjoyment threshold. And then it's kind of like that moment where they're, you're the mom or dad behind the kid on the bike and you're helping them along, being like, oh, good job. I'm helping you a little bit, but good job. And then that moment where you just kind of let go and they figured out enough and are having a good go at it. And then they take off on their own and they're off and away from there. And then once you surpass that enjoyment threshold, you're off and away and you're able to practice or partake in the activity just because you enjoy it, right? Now, there's a lot of implications of this principle, right? So when you're learning something new, it's really important to understand that you're going to go through this process. yourself, right? So if you hate something at first, that doesn't mean you're going to hate it forever. Chances are you're going to not like something that's totally new to you, where you feel this kind of discomfort of being below the enjoyment threshold, but you got to understand what that is and anticipate that once you get past that, you'll enjoy it quite a bit. And it's important to understand that, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to try something new, like, oh, I'm going to ski for the first time. And then if you don't understand this kind of process, you're going to be tempted to think something like, I just don't like skiing, or I'm just really bad at skiing. Skiing is not for me, right? Well, in reality, it's more like you just haven't gotten good enough. You haven't passed the enjoyment threshold to be able to enjoy it, to have some basic skill set, and then you'll be quote unquote a skier, right? So that's one of the reasons why it's important to understand this from a personal standpoint. However, let's talk about how to employ this in your business. So this is actually very, very important, because most businesses involve some level of customer or client education, whether, again, it's having a SaaS product where you have to educate the person on how to use it or connect it with what they're currently doing, maybe a customer learning and applying the concepts in a course that you've built, or maybe you've built a website for somebody and you're going to have to teach them what's the layout, how do they use it, things like that. So this is going to come into play when you're doing that education, because if you don't factor this enjoyment threshold in, if you don't understand the importance of that initial external feedback mechanism, then your client or your customer is probably going to get frustrated and give up a lot more than they should. And so again, if you have a SaaS product and you don't do this right, this could dramatically increase the churn in your product. So that's why it can be very, very profitable to understand this. So one of the things that we often do as we try to educate people on something that we're good at is it's very easy to forget what it was like to be a beginner. Not only in terms of like the understanding that a beginner starts with, but also from an emotional standpoint. I like dancing, for example. I'm going to go back to that a lot. It's my go-to example. So I like dancing. And when I show somebody how to dance for the first time, I kind of come at it from the perspective of like, dancing is fun. Dancing is a cool thing to do. And their perspective is totally different. They're probably like, this is awkward and I'm not enjoying this at all. And so I have to understand that if I'm going to show them how to dance at all. And the same thing is true for anything, right? Again, within your business, you have to come at it from the perspective of like, they're not sold on learning what this is, and they're going to get frustrated. And actually, your primary responsibility is to make them enjoy what they're learning, get them excited about it, relate it back to how cool the outcome will be once they understand this, give them lots of feedback. And it's the whole concept of gamifying education or onboarding or any kind of thing that you do. Because the gamification is that feedback. It's that enjoyment feedback loop and externalizing that feedback in a way that's reinforcing until they get past that enjoyment threshold. So another example relating this back to dancing is that I've actually shown lots of people basic dancing, basic salsa, bachata, or what have you. And I've tried lots of different approaches, right? So I've tried being like really intense and being like, okay, come on, 1, 2, 3, like go, go, go. Trying the hard ass approach. And what's funny is actually you kind of get them further along, they learn more, it's like really pushing them, but they don't enjoy it. And then they're just like, oh, I'm not really interested in doing that again. That wasn't fun, right? So in that instance, I had focused on the how-to information, but not the like why to, or the, hey, this is fun kind of perspective. Now, by contrast, if I teach somebody and I make it very fun, I'm just, it's very happy, like, hey, whatever, here's how you do this. Cool, good job. Lots of positive reinforcement and giving them a reason for why they want to be doing this, then their perspective is, this is awesome. And in fact, you can actually see it in people's faces when they're learning something totally new, right? I probably had this perspective or this expression on my own face when I was listening to the surf instructor yesterday. It's like you're a bit overwhelmed, and you have a look in your eyes that shows like, okay, I'm open to suggestion. You're going to be shaping this experience for me. I hope you make it nice. And the same thing is true when you're in that educational role, right? If you're talking one-on-one with a client, and they're just totally overwhelmed with how to do something. And by the way, this works through sort of automated educational systems as well. They're wide-eyed and they're ready for you to create the impression or the context for which they're either going to really love it or really, really hate it. And that goes well beyond purely how-to informational type stuff. Because one of the key takeaways of this is if our goal is to teach a customer or a client something, it's really easy to get stuck focusing on the information and the logistics, and then like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, without remembering to take care of the emotional side of things. I mean, we're humans, we're emotional creatures after all. So beyond step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, it's, hey, here's why you're doing it. Step 1, isn't that awesome that you know how to do that? You just did a great job. Step 2, here's why that's cool that you just did that. Here's more reinforcement based on the fact that you just progressed. Here, good job, you've leveled up. Like all this constant feedback. And then once they get through maybe, 5 steps is my arbitrary number, then they're like, oh, okay, I get it. This is cool. Okay, this is fun, And then they're kind of off and away. They're the kid on the bike who now can pedal on their own. So when was a time when you tried to learn something and you got frustrated while trying to learn it and you gave up? Now, when was a time when you tried to show somebody something and you're like, oh, this is really cool. Like, here's how to do this. And they just get kind of confused or overwhelmed or frustrated and they give up, right? These are actually very common occurrences. So it's important to think about this. Think about times when it's gone really well for you and really poorly from you, from both the educator and learner perspective. And then now to think about how you can do a better job educating your customers and your clients in a way where they really enjoy it. They're really happy to receive that education. Because if you think about it, schools, right? Kids hate schools in a lot of situations, but they don't have to. If you sit down with a kid and you play with the kid and you show them something and you make it fun, they really, really enjoy it. However, if you have a really boring, like, here's how you add X plus Y, blah, 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 then they're going to hate it. And that completely changes the context for how self-motivated they are and how appreciative they are for doing that, right? Kids will try everything they can to avoid school. But if you were to make it fun, then they would actively pursue learning in school, right? And the same thing is true for clients as well, because at no age do we lose that same perspective. If it's enjoyable, we'll want more of it. If it's unenjoyable, we'll be like, oh, this is annoying. I don't want this anymore. So the same thing is true for your business. Is your training, is your learning that you give to your clients and your customers, is it enjoyable or is it a hurdle that's kind of unpleasant that people just try and get through or get past? So anyways, those are some things to think about, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. I've been actually, if you've noticed, if you actually listen to each episode each week, I've been testing out some different formats for these episodes. Doing some more topical episodes, doing some more that are story-based versus like, here's tip 1, here's tip 2, here's tip 3. So I'm very much open to feedback or criticism or compliments. That'd be nice. If you have any thoughts about what kinds of episodes that you really like, that are your favorite, that you find the most valuable. Is it the interview episodes? Is it the, here's 5 tips for how to do this? Here's 5 tools for that. Very like boom, 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 boom. Or is it something like this, which is more story-based, more open-ended? I even had that one episode a while back where I basically just posed a question and sort of reflected about it in a recorded way. So there's lots of different ways to do episodes, and my intention here is to make this most valuable to you. So please, if you have any feedback at all, grant@myepodcast.com. Shoot me an email and let me know. And as always, thanks for listening. Hey entrepreneurs and experts, I just wanted to thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you learned at least one new big idea that helps you evolve your skills and gets you closer to monetizing your expertise and creating that successful knowledge business. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes and Stitcher, and check out myepodcast.com for all episodes as well as the tips and tricks mentioned in this episode. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.